sorry, 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's GDP, but almost 60% of the world's public market cap. So we must be doing something right. And if you want to bet, you're going to bet on America because they'll have a big debate and punch out that they'll come out to a good decision. And I'm going to bet that the years ends up based on 75 years of data.
All right. Let's see how it unfolds. And I'm sending positive energy your way. And shout out to Frank's baby girl, Sarah, if she's watching. And thank you, Frank. Try and enjoy some downtime here in Zurich. And thank you all for watching.
Just a little il faut foie.
But anything for the shot. We are absolutely freezing. I am in open-toe sandals, but we will power through. No shortage of news here, Frank. We were saying, you know, things are just moving at lightning speed here. First, look, we're in the belly of the beast. I want to get your take on what I call the bank sprint, not the bank run, by how fast things are unfolding and banks are collapsing. I mean, how far do the dominoes go here?
But it's interesting because it's very different than 2008. The rising of rates seems to be a magic number. And as soon as rates went above 4%, wealthy people and corporations started taking their money out of all these banks and putting them into money funds. But it wasn't until it went above 4% that it accelerated. And the portfolios on the other side were mismatched, that they had long bonds versus short, and they couldn't meet all the redemptions. Nobody expected such a zero, everything melts. Right? Ice freezes, well, this melted.
But, and you know, offline, I know, Frank, we were scratching our heads saying, you know, where was the risk management? I mean, what really went wrong? How could they have become so sloppy?
I think it just has to do with mismatch. When you become a bond portfolio, either you ladder it.
Yeah.
If you had $10 million and you'd have $1 million for each of the 10 years, wealthy climate change fanatics, and they've pushed for legislation to shut down any form of mining in the state, even if you have a private source of electricity, you have your own hydro dam, doesn't matter. And so, yes, and Signature Bank was a New York State bank. So it's really tragic what happened to the shareholders there, because I know from the relationship we had, it was first-class people, first-class operation. The due diligence process that we had to go through all the time was at this level.
Right.
So it's just part of this whole narrative. And the bank wants to come out. Like all these countries, like now the Bitcoin's coming out. They all want to come out with their own currency because Bitcoin validated the blockchain. What's really important is that the blockchain was created in '91 by Americans. And then we go another decade further, and it was released as the SHA-256, which is the encryption used for your iPhone for facial recognition, also used for Bitcoin. And then 9 years later, it comes out Bitcoin, because it was the amalgamation of the two, and it's American innovation. So I believe there's a Japanese founder, but really it's just another name. It's an American creation. It was a Defense Department, DARPA of the US government that created SHA-256. I go to a conference in New York, and the keynote speaker is a CEO of Fidelity. And she doesn't speak at an investment conference, and she's talking about Bitcoin. And the biggest booth was IBM. I said, well, something big is happening in blockchain, and people spend $1,000 a ticket to get in. Then there's 30,000 people spent this in Miami. They're in Barcelona 3 weeks ago. It's in England. So the ecosystem for Bitcoin, there's 12,000 independent nodes around the world validating transactions. So it's a really interesting group of people that want to have this mechanism that's released all this other innovation. But I really looked at it as being, I have an asset class and you have a diversified portfolio. I've always advocating of a 10% weighting in gold, just like Ray Dalio with Bridgewater. He always has for his parity trading some gold. And along comes this Bitcoin, and the gold bugs are telling me about it. And I said, you know, that's interesting, an asset class with maybe 3%, a jalapeno, but you can't eat a plate of jalapenos. But the diehards, the advocates, the really hardcore, they're only long Bitcoin.
Let me ask you this, as an operator in the space, how concerned are you of coming regulation, or do you see it as a positive?
Well, I think it could be a positive, but it concerns you when they shut down banks the way they did Signature. This is accelerating. And it could be your GDP, it could be your military, it could be 1 billion people. That's a lot of mass. So China in the past 20 years, GDP is the same as Russia, but its GDP per capita, per person, but the GDP of that nation is now $18 billion. Russia is only 1.8 billion. America is 23 billion. So it makes it very difficult for America to really take on China and Russia at the same time, because you start seeing the sheer numbers of their mass of GDP. So what's happened, I believe, is that China pushes Russia to go ahead and go back into Ukraine.
Right.
And if Russia loses, then they're going to go and take Manchuria and up as much as Siberia to get more land. And if Russia wins in the Ukraine war, then they take out Taiwan, and you've got the top-selling book, The Chip Wars. So it's a great concern, and America is now spending billions of dollars sponsoring chip manufacturing, the high-quality chips in Taiwan to move to be manufactured in the US. So we have, for the first time in history, an interesting black swan, because America is rebalancing. And year to date, with all this calamity, all the negative attack of Bitcoin, Bitcoin's up 70%. Yeah. So gold's up, 18, 19%, but nothing compared to, the NASDAQ has had a bounce here. But I think that this, talking about the big picture, that's good news, is that since I was born, in the third year of the president's term, the market's up 90-some-odd% of the time. And it's up between 13 if it's a Democrat and 17% if it's a Republican president in the third year. So we are in the third year, and you see the JETS ETF, it's flying above the S&P, it's outperforming the S&P. The PMIs, because China's opened its economy, they've now gone, global PMIs above 50. So I think, the year, don't get caught up so much in the negative narrative, that it could be, if you're not long, you're wrong.
That's a good point you're bringing up, and anyone that knows you personally knows that you're a big believer in positive thinking, and with all these negative headlines circulating us, a lot of investors write to me, email me daily, so concerned, frightened for the future. How do you navigate it? How can you keep your head above water here? How do you stay positive?
Well, there's lots of spiritual and elements, and religion is important, and meditation is very important, and the circle of friends you have. And in the study of chemistry, I was going into medicine, you have either an exothermic or endothermic reaction. You need a catalyst. Is someone giving you energy or take your energy? So when I meet people that all of a sudden I walk away, I felt they took all my energy, I have to get them out of my life. I have to find someone that's going to be giving me energy, that's positive and constructive. And then I'm blessed at the age of 60 having a little baby girl. And so now I'm 68 and running, and I'm blessed. Yeah. So I think staying young that way is important. Also, MIT did research on this, that those that look positively about what's good about America, and I think there's some great lines there, that America's only 5% of the world's GDP,